you read the ordinance, please?
I have an ordinance number 2016-20 of the City of Lake Worth, Florida, amending the comprehensive plan by providing a zoning map amendment change to rezone certain properties more fully described in Exhibit A from a county multifamily RH commercial zoning district to a City of Lake Worth zoning designation of mixed-use West MUW, providing a conflicting ordinance to repeal, providing for severance, and providing an effective date.
I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor?
Yes?
City Attorney, was that 2016-20 or 19?
2016-19.
I believe you said 20.
I read the wrong one.
Thanks.
There you go. Let me read
Good
it.
catch.
Sorry
Thank
about
you,
that.
Vice Mayor.
Skipped over this one.
That's why you make the big bucks.
Right.
Good catch. Ordinance, I apologize. Ordinance number 2016-19 of the City of Lake Worth, Florida, amending the comprehensive plan by providing a small-scale amendment change to the future land use map of certain properties more fully described in Exhibit A from a county land use designation of commercial high-intensity 8 dwelling units per acre and commercial low-intensity 8 dwelling units per acre CH8 CL8 to a City of Lake Worth land use designation of mixed-use West MUW, trying for conflicting ordinance to repeal, trying for severance, and providing effective date.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
This is what came before us a short while ago, right? A couple months back?
Several months ago, you approved an enclave agreement, which went to the county in May, which was approved, which effectively annexed the areas on the map into the city. The second part is then giving them an official future land use designation as part of the city's future land use map and comprehensive plan. And the next ordinance is actually officially giving them a zoning classification.
Okay. We've got a motion on the floor in a second. Commissioner McBoyd?
Am I correct in looking at your map that the hatched area includes the triangular island surrounded by water on all sides?
Yes.
Does it have to?
What do you mean? It's already been annexed into the city.
No, that's a great thing. I think it's great that it's annexed into the city. Does it have to have the same zoning as the rest of the parcels? The rest of the hatched
Not
area?
necessarily. We're talking about the future land use map now. We're not talking about zoning.
I know my head hurts, with all due respect to you, as to which is which and all that stuff, but the stuff that relates to what we're going to do on it or allowed to do. The reason I ask is that I think the city manager and I may have talked about it occasionally. I've been on that island. You may have been on it also. It makes no sense to me at all to, I don't know what mixed use would be west, but that island would be an awesome place for a park or something or other very different, and I would be reluctant to not pay attention to that now. It doesn't make any sense to me to zone it the same as the other parcels that, you know, I have no problem with. Mixed use west is probably fine, but that island, I would certainly do something very different with it because of its pretty unusual location. And I am quite familiar that once you give a piece of land a certain zoning, it's very difficult for us to come back later and say, well, you know, we really meant for that to be a park or do something different. You can't do it once you change the zoning. So this seems to me like the time to take that piece of it off.
And what would you recommend the future land use be?
Something that is compatible with the fact that it is basically an undeveloped, it at one time had a homestead on it, probably 80 years ago or something or other, that's no longer, there's a little bit of it left, and mostly it's trees. There's a small amount of native vegetation and a lot of other stuff. There's a bunch of trees on it. I mean, it's a pretty interesting spot that seems to me has much higher uses than to just lump it in with those other ones. And you've got a whole development, the yellow there, that's pretty high intensity.
Well, keep in mind that this is under private ownership, and it currently has a low density commercial mixed use classification from the county. And we would be in a little bit of a questionable state to provide it a zoning and a future land use that lessens the development potential for that property, under which that it already has when it was at the county. The only commensurate future land use classification that we had that's kind of similar to what they have right now is our mixed use east future land use, but that doesn't extend past 95. Interstate 95. So where you're going, I think, is more like public recreation, open space on classification, which I'd have to defer, I have to speak to our council, whether we could give that a future land use designation of such, but under the zoning section, give them a zoning that would allow them to do a commensurate type of development as what's already allowed under the county. But what the thought was is that if somebody were to come and do something fairly large, it's environmentally sort of difficult to develop that island area, but it would provide some intensity and density that could be transferred to other parcels, like maybe across the canal, where that island could be left as open space associated with the development. And unfortunately, our land use attorney, unless city attorney Sylvia wants to jump in, I believe we'd be able to give that a PROS, future land use designation, as long as we had a zoning that allows something to happen, but they would be in conflict, and the state might question it that we were giving a future land use designation that has a lesser type of development than the zoning which comes with it as well. So we're kind of in a quandary. It would have been great if the county had recognized this as an environmentally sensitive area a long time ago and given it a different zoning classification. Because we also have Burt Harris rules that we have to follow, that taking someone's development rights away from them or reducing them significantly, then they are owed compensation. And I would hate for us to annex in an island and then owe the property and a bunch of money because we zoned it weird.
I understand that, but I also know enough about that kind of thing to know that Burt Harris cases are very hard to actually resolve in favor of that. They have to have a very clear indication of reduction in their future income, and I think any reasonable person who goes out to that and looks at that would say, well, you don't have any reasonable expectation that you're going to make money out of that piece of land that's surrounded by a canal. I think that we have an opportunity here. There are very few open spaces. That would be an awesome place to have kids camp, or Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, take people out there, or, you know, any number of things would be quite reasonable. It's single-family homes in Lake Clark Shores to the north. I can't remember what it is to the west.
There is a commercial to the west across the canal, and then there are some single-family that begin just north of this.
It definitely is on the north side of it, could have come in on that side. But I just think that if there's any way, and I certainly, you know, would be interested to hear what the city attorney says, but it seems to me if we have any opportunity whatsoever when we're taking it over from the county to preserve, you know, what is that, maybe a half acre?
That's 3/4 of an acre.
Yeah, it's not, you know,
Not huge.
it's not huge in terms of commercial uses or housing uses. Nobody's going to put a house on it, but in terms of long-term benefit to Lake Worth or the area, it has its highest use would certainly be for something unusual and not that zoning or that land use or whatever it is. So that's my plug.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
Just wanted to call the question.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor and a second. We have public comment cards. No. Seeing there are none, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
I think I'm an nay.
Motion carries 4-1. Moving on to item 12F. This is the 2016-20 city attorney.